somewhere I feel it in my soul. One chance is everything we've waited for. It's our time, so let me take it home and knock it out of this world. Out of this world where we going, yeah. Out of this world, yeah. Out of this world where we going. So come on, let me
waiting and anticipating just to get a chance so we can be great kings. That time now wasting, no more debating. Today, our future creating. Here when we stating, we want the rating. Open a
Yeah, the men's ICC T20 World Cup so far living up to the words of the song, cricket played out of this world. And it was just like that on a tense night at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Tarouba on Wednesday night. West Indies hoping to confirm their Super 8 place. New Zealand looking to stay alive. The fans came out in their numbers and they would not leave disappointed as the Caribbean side avoided a near disaster before carving out a thrilling 13-run victory to advance beyond the first round for the first time since they last won the World T20. That was in 2016. Now that match, Sherfane Rutherford struck an unbeaten 68 from 39 deliveries as he led the Windies recovery from 30 for 5 and 76 for 7 to eventually post 149 for 8. The left-hander was especially savage in the last 2 overs, from which the Windies scored 37 runs. The key was bowling effort was led by their dynamic duo, Trent Bolt, the left-arm seamer, with 3 for 16, and Tim Southey, 2 for 21. Alzara Joseph then backed up Rutherford's efforts by taking 4 for 19, while left-arm spinner Gudakesh Moti claimed 3 for 25 in a strong West Indian bowling performance that restricted New Zealand to 136 for 9. Let's now hear from Rutherford, who was named Player of the Match.
I pattern my game out of this situation. Even in my preparation before the World Cup, I try to put myself in position in the nets where, I have to bat properly, then I have to excel in the end. So I think, it's good to see that, my plans and my work is actually coming to show. We want to take it game by game, it's just a process. Afghanistan is a good team, but at the end of the day, we are a good team as well, and we doesn't want to look on the opposition. We just want to do the right things and go through our process. And as long we as a team do the right stuff, more often than not, we come out on top.
Yeah, terrific knock it was from Sherfane Rutherford, the way he took his time to get into the innings, understanding the situation of the game, understanding how the surface was playing, and delivering one of the great performances, in my estimation, for West Indies at T20 World Cups. Fazir Mohammed, who has been watching T20 World Cups ever since the first one was held in South Africa, and Chris Gayle made a century in the opening game in a losing effort, and he is still watching on with great excitement to see the West Indies pull off these wins. How are you doing, Faz? It's good to have you. It's been a while. Well, at least when I'm here.
Indeed, good to be back on the show, and thanks very much for that lovely introduction.
You're welcome. Not a problem. Anytime. Talk to me about this performance, fans, because as I was saying at the top of the show, it wasn't flawless. It wasn't without its issues, but there has to be something said about the way that the West Indies really fought last night and found a way to get that important win.
Absolutely, it was far from flawless. 30 for 5, and as you said in the introduction, a bit of it as well. Some of the shot making, the failure to be aware of the situation. So there's a lot to look at in that regard. But yes, to come away from 30 for 5 and win against an improving New Zealand team, because again, New Zealand were chastened by that humiliation they endured in Guyana at the hands of Afghanistan, which virtually put them in a must-win situation last night. And therefore, they would have felt, even with 2 overs to go, that they had the match in hand. Then came that explosion over those 2 overs. And again, to reinforce your point, Sherfane Rutherford said after the match that he was mindful that New Zealand had gambled on trying to dismiss the West Indies and therefore left themselves light at the end, and he knew once he hung around he was going to capitalize. So said, so done. And then the bowlers, credit to all of them, for playing their parts. The wicket takers, of course, led the way, but I think overall the attitude of the West Indies in the field was one of commitment and determination. Not flawless, because again we saw chances go a begging, run out missed, and so many other things, but it just shows a will to win, which is very encouraging moving into the Super 8.
Yeah, without a doubt, fans. And you know, I don't always like singling out players, especially on the negative end, but I think in this situation it's quite important, and it's not because this player is not important to the team, because he is extremely important to the team, and I think will play an integral part in whether West Indies can go on and win this World Cup or not. But you spoke about the situational awareness from Sherfane Rutherford in terms of understanding that New Zealand might be left light at the back end, and so he would give himself every opportunity to be able to take advantage of that. And then there's Andre Russell. And this is why, for me, Andre Russell's dismissal was disappointing. I remember, fans, 2019 50-over World Cup. The West Indies playing Australia. If you remember that match, Australia in trouble. I think they were 90 odd for 7. Went on to post well over 200. West Indies well on course for the victory. Andre Russell was out there. He looked pretty good. The Aussies brought back Mitchell Starc for one reason and one reason only. And that was to get Andre Russell, because they knew once they did, that was going to be it for the West Indies. So said, so done. That was 2019. Last night, Andre Russell comes out. He is going pretty well. What do the New Zealanders do? They bring back their best bowler in Trent Boult. That's the one man I said to myself, Russell, just don't get out here. Don't get out to this man. And he did, Faz. And that was really disappointing for me, especially because of the experience of Russell. I don't know what you think about it.
I think you've encapsulated it perfectly, because you want to see these experienced players show that experience. Yes, we know about the spectacular shot making. We know no one can hit the ball further than Andre Russell. But you've got to be aware of the situation. I would add Nicholas Pooran to that discussion, because again, yes, we all know about his ability, but you're not playing on concrete strips like in the IPL. You're playing on pitches that challenge you as a batter, that brings the bowler into the contest, which I applaud, because I'm tired of this sort of concrete strip style T20 cricket. But again, you've got to recognize in the same way with that situation.
Yeah, and you know, Faz, I'm going to move away now from the batting discussion and just zone in a bit more on the bowlers. And I felt as if, you know, our bowlers has continued to make us feel really, really proud. I'll say I'm blessed to be living in a time where we get to see a Gurukesh Moti and an Akil Hussain. Alzari Joseph itself was, you know, very, very impressive. So I feel as if, you know, once the batting is done, our bowlers, I have enough confidence in them to get the job done. Gurukesh Moti even named ICC Player of the Month. I reported that a short while ago in Zone Update. What's your take on how they went about their jobs?
Well, if you're delighted with them now, I can only imagine you being delirious in the area of holding Roberts Croft and Ghana.
Yeah,
but that's long before your time.
Faz, I just want to add, I had Courtney Walsh here on In Case You Missed It, and I was telling him I was born in the wrong time because I didn't get to see them.
Well, there's YouTube, and there's so many other opportunities to capture that. But to your point, yes, and I was one who would have questioned two left-arm spinners. I said maybe Kyle Mayers instead of Gurukesh Moti. But look how well Moti has bowled. And that dismissal of Daryl Mitchell was almost the perfect left-arm spinner's delivery. Flighted, beautifully angling into the right-hander, turning away, hitting the top of middle and off, comprehensively beating the batsman. And that is what you want to see even in T20 cricket. Alzari Joseph, we've talked about Alzari for the last year and a half as him being the leader of the West Indies bowling attack, in the white ball format especially. And there he was again. Akil Hussain, 5 wickets in the match against Uganda. Once more, very difficult to get him away in opening the bowling and sharing that responsibility. So yes, okay, the conditions are assisting the bowlers, but so what? The conditions generally help the batters all the time. What about trying to even the scales just a bit, and we see the bowlers responding to that challenge superbly so far.
Yeah, and you know, I saw this question also in relation to New Zealand going around, Faz, and I'd love to hear your take on it, especially because you've been following the World Cup for quite some time. You've even commentated on a lot of cricket matches and everything. So the question is, do you think that this is New Zealand's worst ever World Cup performance? What do you think?
Well, that's pushing it, because the fact is that New Zealand sort of put themselves in a difficult situation anyway by not playing any warm-up cricket. They might have been affected by the weather, they might have had issues with travel and logistics, because we all know that the IPL ended on the Sunday and the World Cup started just 5 days after that.
Yeah.
And there were all sorts of different issues related to that. But it seems that New Zealand, who you don't usually associate with complacency, because they are generally a team that exceeds expectations, exceeds even sometimes their own expectations because of their level of commitment. They came into this tournament really undercooked, really rusty, and they have paid the price, because they're going to get knocked out, because it's difficult to see Afghanistan losing to Papua New Guinea tonight at the Brian Lara Stadium, because once Afghanistan wins, New Zealand are out. I wouldn't say it's their worst performance ever, but what I would say is that they've obviously paid the price for a lack of proper preparation.
Yeah, Faz, I want to tackle a comment that Ricardo made at the top of the show when he suggested that the batting wasn't flawless. I thought that was a pretty tame way of describing the perilous...
I said the performance wasn't flawless.
No, you said the batting.
No, the performance. The performance as a whole wasn't flawless.
And you went on to say the batting had its issues. Whatever reference you made to the batting, Ricardo, sounded a bit tame to me, because the batting was wretched outside of Sherfane Rutherford. And Faz, in your response, I could hear...
Not just Sherfane Rutherford, though, because as I said, you cannot discount what Akil Hussain did. You cannot discount what Romario Shepherd did in understanding the situation and staying and building an innings with Sherfane Rutherford. So
I understand that, but their responsibilities in this team would not be for batting.
I don't agree.
Primarily.
I don't agree.
The people who have the responsibility for the batting...
No. Not in T20 cricket. Those guys are just as important for their batting as they are for their bowling. I'll put to you that there are cases that can be made that someone like a Romario Shepherd or an Andre Russell with their lower order hitting could be more significant, more important than even what they deliver with the ball. As you saw last night, Romario Shepherd didn't have to bowl 4 overs. Andre Russell didn't have to bowl 4 overs. Ruston Chase only bowled 1 over last night. So I'm not with you on that one, Lance.
So Faz, let me get your comment there, because until Sherfane Rutherford delivered his match-winning performance, the West Indies batting was wretched. Yeah. Am I right or wrong, Faz?
You're absolutely right. I mean,
that's just the point I was making.
Lance, you have said a completely different thing from what I said. You have now phrased it completely differently. So
I heard you at the top, Ricardo, and my feeling was that you were a little soft in addressing how badly the West Indies batted last night. That's just the point that I was making.
I think that's only an interpretation from your end, because again, I was very specific I was speaking about the overall performance.
The first thing I've got to say is that you didn't even suggest initially that the batting was the biggest problem. Your batting reference was the second thing you said.
Because, Lance, I don't see the batting as only the top 4 or the top 5. I see the batting as a complete unit that goes all the way to number 11, because that's how I view the T20 version of the game. For me, it is slightly different from the test version of the game or even the 50-over version of the game. So I expect as much from Andre Russell and Romario Shepherd and Akil Hussain, even Alzarri Joseph, as I expect from those who are in the top 6. Or maybe I shouldn't say as much, but they all have very important roles, and depending on the situation that they are put in, I expect them to be able to adjust accordingly. So I am not separating necessarily the top 4 or the top 5 from those 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I want to make that very, very clear, Lance.
Faz, can I get your opinion, Faz?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if there's any time left for my opinion. Yeah, but in any event, I take Ricardo's point, but the reason that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 batting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is because you expect greater production from them.
Yeah.
And even if they are going to struggle, you don't expect them to get out in the way many of them got out last night.
Yes.
And that is the issue. That's why I was making the point about Nicholas Pooran, that yes, we all know what he offers, but you get dropped a hard chance at short mid wicket and then at short extra cover, and then you go again in the same over. You have Johnson Charles swiping in the first over against Trent Bolt, and apart from the other dismissals along the way, there has to be some sort of awareness of the situation that you're in, and not just simply saying, okay, well, we have batting all the way down to 9, 10 jack. Okay, maybe you do, but the point is the fact that you're there at the top of the order means there is an expectation of not just greater skill and ability, but greater awareness of the situation you're in.
Yeah, Faz, I completely agree with everything that you have just said. So let me get that out of the way. I don't want to now start addressing things that I didn't say, which is what Lance is pushing me to do. Here is where Lance really wants to go, right, Faz? At the top of the show, I mentioned a discussion that we had on Monday where I was suggesting that the West Indies did the right thing in the Uganda game.
No, that had nothing to do with what I was saying.
It had everything to do with it, Lance. No. Hold on, Lance. It had everything to do with it. I suggested, Faz.
Well, you're wrong, because I wasn't thinking that at all.
Well, let me land this. Let me land this plane. So, Faz, I had suggested that West Indies did the right thing by batting first against Uganda, because the batting reps, especially in a tournament like this, where the pitches are probably even slightly different and favoring the bowlers more than usual in the Caribbean, more than usual in places where these players have played over the last 12 months or so, that it was important to take every single opportunity to get the reps in heading into the more important matches. It was more important to get the reps in than it was to think about net run rate early in the campaign. And at the top of the show, I suggested that, well, here we go. The batting got the reps helped last night. And I think Lance is trying to say that last night's performance had nothing to do with the reps that they got, because the top order struggled badly. And that's where I'm saying I don't think about the batting as just the top order. I think about it as an overall unit. And so, yes, the reps in games 1 and 2 would have helped last night in game 3. Imagine if West Indies bowled first in the game against Uganda, bowled them out for 30, and then the opener stroked it off in 3 or 4 overs. Then what? Sherfane Rutherford wouldn't have had a chance to score 22 from 16, which I'm very sure helped him last night with his knock. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm responding to Lance Whitaker, Fazir Mohammed, Mariah Ramrak, and all our wonderful viewers across the Caribbean.
Yeah, and to repeat, Faz, that was not on my mind at all when I addressed what Ricardo was saying. Zero. It was not on my mind at all. I just thought that he was a little soft in addressing how badly the West Indies batted. Quickly before we wrap the segment, Faz, I thought that the constant boundary interaction between Coach Darren Sammy and Robman Powell is something I've never seen in cricket, and it was constant last night. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's good in one way, and it could be a concern in another, because sometimes, depending on the situation, you don't want, even if it's your coach, even if you have a good relationship with him, that you don't want them constantly in your ear, because you have to be your own leader, male or female, depending on the situation. However, it really depends on the dynamic between the individuals, and it seems that there's a really good rapport with Darren Sammy and the entire squad, of course, but especially with Rodman Powell. And therefore, Kim coming there and offering advice probably who to bowl, who should bowl the last over, who should bowl this over, and so on. It speaks to good communication, but I'm a bit wary about it, because when it doesn't work, when the West Indies may lose, it might look like interference. It might look like you're just confusing the situation. So it really depends on the two individuals and the specific circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Land your plane.
Yeah. We're going to leave it there. We feel as if we could talk a lot more about this West Indies cricket and, the fact that they play Afghanistan in their next match on Monday, I think it is a fixture that we look forward to as well. So thanks, Faz. Great talking to you as usual. And we'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.
I can hear the greatness calling. So we're balling is a in-bad thing. Champion vibes and we ain't falling. Listen when we sing, so we're up on the grind. So you know, so we have to go and do it this time. So when we combine, all who don't see, we have said them ain't shine. Cause the victory is inside me, I tell you this step on my mind. I could a million times them decline, but we still go and climb to the top.
This moment is all that I've been dreaming of. Somewhere I feel it in my soul. One chance.